Hi, it's Camille again. I'm playing another Scratch game. I'm playing the game that we're going to create today. It's called Love Bug, and my love bug is looking for love as I take him through this maze, and I'm going to go all the way through the maze and show you what happens when Love Bug wins. So I'm going to show you how to generate a maze today. Show you how to create the really cool backgrounds that I made for my maze. And watch what happens. Love wins, hooray, happy Valentine's Day. So if you would like to make this game with me, go ahead and let's get into your Scratch account and you can code along with me. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do once I get into my project is get rid of Scratch Cat, and I'm going to make the maze. I'm going to show you a fun way to bring in a maze from a maze generator. You can go ahead. We talked about creating our own backdrops and sprites using the art features in Scratch. I'm going to show you how we can upload a maze that's already created. The nice thing about this is all of the widths of the lines are going to be equidistant, so that when you're designing a maze and once you size your sprite, you'll pretty much know that that sprite is going to fit through your maze once you size it once. So this is at our site called mazegenerator.net, and I'm going to decide, you can choose the width and the height, okay? And I'm going to do a 5x5 maze, and that's what it's going to look like. I kind of like it. So before you do this, talk to your grown-up about downloading things onto your computer. If your grown-up doesn't want you to use this site to download things, then you can go ahead and create a maze on your own using the art features of Scratch. But I'm going to go ahead and save this, then download it as an SVG. And when you download it as an SVG, it's transparent. So I'll show you what that means by the time we finish our program. So I'm going to go ahead and click. This is what it looks like, okay? And if I go back to Scratch, I can upload. I'm going to go to downloads, and I found it, and there is my maze. So if I click on the arrow, I can go ahead and expand my maze a little bit to fit my space. All right, and do you see all these the checkered background behind the maze? That means it's transparent. See, I'm going to decrease this a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in. You can see over here how big the maze is going to show up in our game. I would like it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to make it fit our game. But we can create a colorful backdrop. And when it's transparent, it's going to show through the maze. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller so that when I put my sprites at the beginning and the end, they won't have to be sitting inside of the maze. They can be sort of sitting half in, half out of the maze. Shrink it just a little bit, okay? So you see I can use these magnifying glasses that kind of expands or decreases the size of the window that I'm working in, and you can always look on the stage to see how big it's going to show up in our game. All right, so there's our stage. Let's go on to the next step, which is to select and decorate sprites. Okay, so the first sprite that we're going to add to our game is going to be the heart at the end of the game. So I'm going to click on the sprites, look for heart, and I'm going to use the heart with the smiley face. So I'm going to move it down here, and it's a little bit big. And remember, we can change the size here, make it 50% size, and see if I like that. Yeah, and I think I'm going to set it like right about there. So remember, I can see the size and position 4 and -21 there. So when the game starts. Let's go ahead and code this sprite when the game starts. We are going to go here and show. All right, next let's code our love bug. All right, there are a couple of different bugs in Scratch. I'm gonna go to animals, and I kind of like this ladybug. All right, again, I'm gonna decrease the bug a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, because it needs to fit in our game, right? 40%, maybe 50 was okay. 50 looked okay. I'm going to move the sprite up to the beginning, and let me show you how we can change our sprite to look a little bit more like a love bug instead of a rainbow bug. So I'm going to rotate my sprite. So I can use the select tool and circle the sprite like that, holding it down and then letting go when I get to the other side of the sprite. That selects it, and I can group it all together. So now these pieces are kind of grouped together. I can click on this arrow down here, and I can rotate my sprite. And once it's grouped, it prevents me from rotating, say, part of the sprite and leaving a leg behind, right? That's no fun. All right, now I'm going to ungroup, and I'm going to change the color. So maybe some of you remember how to do that. Colors are up here. I'm going to go to red. And if I click on the bucket, I can do this. Click on all the parts of the ladybug I want to make red. And remember, that time there's outlines and there is fill. And so that time I clicked on an outline. I'm going to do outline and fill on the legs. Okay. All right. And I think I'm going to make the spots inside, let's say maybe white. So I click on the bucket again, and my little bug has white spots. All right, I like it. Now let's go ahead and code the love bug. So let's go to our events when the game is started. We want the sprite to go to that starting location. Go here. Looks good. And we are going to show our sprite here. All right, and let's control the movement. We are going to use the right and left arrow keys and the up and down arrow keys, and we are going to make the sprite move, left, right, up, and down that way. So if we go to events, and I'll do when, we'll start with up, arrow key is pressed. We want to change Y, right? Change Y by positive. I'm going to start with 5. I can go ahead, and if I right click and duplicate, it makes it a little bit faster. When the down arrow is pressed, change by -5. I can go ahead and duplicate again, and if I do right arrow, then I have to change this, right? Because now I'm back to X position. Change X by 5. I can duplicate again. When the left arrow is pressed, change by -5. All right, should we test it out? All right, seems to be working. All right, but there is a problem. It's not a maze if you can just go through the walls, right? So how are we going to program that? I'm going to restart. Love bug goes back to the beginning. What we're going to do is use the sensing, and we are going to program the ladybug so that if it is, let's get an if, right? Good opportunity to use our if then. If, go to sensing, if that ladybug is touching what color? The easiest and sometimes the fastest way to choose your color is to use this eyedropper, and that's the exact black color we want there, right? So if the ladybug is touching the color black, what do we want to happen? We could have the ladybug go back to the beginning, right? So we could code that same go-to location and we could start over, but I'm going to actually change Y by -5. And what that does is it basically gets your ladybug stuck, right? So it was supposed to move 5 in this direction, but when it hits the wall, it goes back. And it all happens so fast that it looks like it's not moving, all right? So we're gonna have to do that in all 4 directions. And again, we can use the duplicate command, duplicate here, put it here. So down arrow, we're gonna change Y by +5, right? That's the opposite. We can duplicate again, but then remember, we're gonna have to change. That time I had I'm gonna just delete that or move it over here. I had my duplicate. If you have it over the if statement, it copies everything in the if statement. So if touches the color black, change that X again, right? Change X by -5. And let's duplicate this. And we'll do +5, right? The opposite. All right, now let's try it. So I'm moving along. I'm stuck. I wiggle a little bit there, but I'm stuck. Go down here. Is my ladybug gonna fit through the maze? It does. Get stuck. It seems to be working in all directions. All right, fantastic. Okay, so the really important and fun part of this coding project is to code what happens when the ladybug finds love, right? So we're going to use sensing again, and we're going to use another if-then statement, and we will have to put it on each one of these movement blocks. I'm going to just put them in place here so I don't forget. Okay, so if, go to sensing, remember we are in the ladybug sprite, so if touching, and what's the name of the sprite? It is heart face. If touching heart face, we are going to broadcast a message. All right, we did this last time. That is what signaled that the next level of our game began. This time we're going to be signaling that the game is over, and we're going to call it broadcast message love wins. Okay, love wins. All right, and I'm going to duplicate that, put it in each of these spots. Duplicate, and duplicate this. Okay, so we can't really test it yet because nothing other than this broadcasted message is going to happen when the ladybug touches the heart. So let's go and let's code a new backdrop, and then we can test that out, right? So we're going to go to backdrops. This time I'm going to create my own, and I'm going to make it pink. So I'm going to go here. It's white right now. I'm going to change it to pink. Maybe a little lighter pink. A little fussy here. Okay, that pink works, okay? And I'm going to put some text on there. I'm going to say just what I told you I was going to say. Here, I'm going to change it to white right away so we can see what I'm typing. Love wins. Love wins. I'm going to make that a little bigger by dragging on it. Love wins. And then I'm going to make a happy Valentine's Day message. Make that a little bit bigger. All right, and I don't know if you noticed, but my game over screen had a moving part, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I have a love explosion, and I'm going to create a new sprite to appear upon game over. I'm going to use a heart again, so I can search for heart. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to position it like that. So I'm going to get it set up where I want it to show up. All right, remember, it's going to remember that location. So then when I go to code that sprite, when flag is clicked, we're going to hide, right? This heart is not going to show up at the beginning of the game. However, when it receives the message, love wins, we are going to show. And then change size by 10. And then we're gonna put that in a loop. We could do it in a forever loop, or we can do it like 5 times. I'm gonna just put it in a forever loop. And you'll see what happens. So show, change size by 10. All right. All right, let's test it and see what happens. Oh, what do we need to do? We need to go to the backdrops and code how they're supposed to start. So we go here to the backdrops and code when the green flag is clicked. We want to show backdrop. Let's make sure we're looking at them correctly. Backdrop 2. And then when I receive love wins, switched backdrop. I think it's going to be, we're going to have to go back and look. What are they called? Sometimes it's really better to name your backdrop so that it is not as confusing. All right, so this backdrop is called this maze. We're going to call this maze. So we're gonna start with the maze backdrop, and then we're gonna call this one love wins backdrop. Okay, so let's see if that makes it a little bit easier to understand. All right, so at the beginning of the game, switch backdrop to maze. When I receive love wins, switch backdrop to love wins. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what happens. I'll play the game. The moment of truth. It's a little stuck there. A little stuck there. Ta-da! Happy Valentine's Day. Love wins. All right, that happened a little bit fast. So let's do this. Let's code the sprite, the exploding sprite. All right, let's see what happens when we hit start. I'm going to cheat. I just want to test something here. When we hit start, look, the heart is still giant. We need to go back to this sprite, and we need to go back to looks and change size by 100%, right? So we have to reset. A lot of times when we're coding, in the end we realize, oops, we need to go back to the beginning of the game conditions, and we do that by resetting through things like show and hide and changing size back to 100%, all right? Let's try it again. Let's see. All right, let's try it again. All right, it's still ginormous again. What are we doing wrong here? Let's go back to the heart. All right, let's start. We're going to test that condition again. Nope. All right, we're going to test that condition. The heart was giant, so we're going to go back, and when we are back on this heart, we are going to change the looks to set size to 100%. All right, now it should start back at the original size. Let's see. We can cheat in our testing. There, it started at the original size again. I'm going to do two things. Well, first of all, looking at this, what do we need to do? We need to hide these other sprites when the game is over, right? So let's go back and do that. When I receive, love wins, hide. And then you can see we show up again, and that was on this heart face. Let's go on the ladybug, same thing. When I receive, love wins, hide. All right, and then going back to this heart, the expanding heart, I'm going to put a weight. It happened a little too quickly for me. So remember, we can use weight to slow the speed down in our games. So I'm going to do weight. I'm going to do weight, maybe 0.25 seconds. And I'm going to put another weight in here. I want it to just say Happy Valentine's Day for a little bit longer so that people get my message. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna cheat again to get to the end of the game. Love wins, Happy Valentine's Day. There. All right, and a love explosion. All right, and let's see, I'm gonna test it again all the way through. I'm going to play the whole entire game to make sure that conditions reset. It's best to, when you're checking your games, to check them a few times because you want to check all of those resets to make sure that things go back to the way you want them to at the beginning of the game. And it did. Excellent. All right, I'm going to show you one more fun thing that we can do. And it works because we saved that maze as a transparent image. So I'm going to go back to the backdrops, and I'm going to put a fun background on this backdrop. So again, I'm going to use this rectangle and I'm going to fill it, all right? And I'm going to do this. So this makes kind of this pattern, like a light color in the middle, dark color on the edges, and you get to choose the colors that you want to play with. So I'm going to choose, I'm not going to choose red because my sprites won't show up so well. So I'm going to use like a purple and maybe a pink. Let's see. How about that? All right, I like it. So then the other thing we need to do is we need to send this backwards so that the maze shows, right? We don't want it to be on top of the maze or we won't be able to play our game. So how do you like the way that looks? I like it. All right, let's play one more time. So think about, how could you change this game up? Could you make your love bug start over at the beginning again if it ran into a wall? How would you code that? Could you add a level to your game? That's actually what we're going to do next week, is we're going to add another level and we're going to make our maze a little bit more challenging. All right, I like it. Happy Valentine's Day, and thanks for coding with me. Bye.